So Rebecca, Luna, so excited to have you here today.
Oh my God, you're gorgeous
Hi.
and fancy. I feel like I need to fix my hair now.
Thank you.
Just wait, I'm going to go get changed. I'll be right back.
It's my Latina. I'm bringing out my Latina-ness. Yes.
Ooh, I like it. Spicy, girl. Spicy.
That's right. It is Hispanic Heritage Month.
I love it. So I grew up most of my years in El Barrio in Spanish Harlem in New York City. So I get the spicy Latino. I'm not myself, but I love the vibe.
That's okay. You're a Latina at heart. That's right. You're my amiga.
For sure. For sure.
So Rebecca, I want to get you to take a few minutes to introduce yourself, or it doesn't have to be minutes. You can decide how long it is. We'll, as we always say, we'll dive in deeper. But at least I know I sent you some details on Rebecca. She's got a really unique story.
I want to know more.
It's really
radio
unique.
Host and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it kind of shocked me because I didn't know that whenever she was, she wrote in the Blue Talks book, and as I was reading her story, I didn't even know. It's kind of neat. I'll just say this one quick thing. Elise and I met at a Hayos conference. You Can Do It conference, and have known each other since then. Rebecca and Shelley met at Brendan Burchard's conference, and then Shelley introduced me to Rebecca. We went for lunch with her in San Diego, and have known her ever since. So it's like
San Diego when?
When was that?
2 years ago. That was 2 years ago in 2019.
That was the Blue Talks event that I spoke at. Remember, we were that was the Blue Talks, and you were going to the event afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the same time, 100%. Yep. I've been in pre-COVID. I was in San Diego probably 10 times in about 2 years. But you're right, it was the October one because Shelley and we brought a friend with us on the trip who could watch Sebastian.
And he got sick, and then da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, there's a whole story. Same time, same place.
Yeah, but how cool is that? Like, I met both of you guys at a conference, and people wonder our conference is worth investing in. And here's, combined here, like, what's that? Like, probably 8 years of knowing each other from 2 conferences. So,
and we were there at the same time.
Yeah,
all three of us were in San Diego at the same time.
Yeah, Elise was speaking at our Blue Talks event just up the road, just before the Brendan Burchard event. So, and she's not from San Diego. Like, such a small world.
Just happened to be there on the way somewhere else.
And so I bring all this up because when we sat with Rebecca and had a chat, I didn't realize so many parts of her background that I discovered once I started reading her Blue Talks chapter in the book. So Rebecca, having said all that build up, can you tell us
what is it that you do? How are you changing the world as your spicy self? That's what we want to know.
The question is, what am I not doing? I'm always involved with something. Community, I have community at heart. Helping others, I have at heart. That comes natural. I love it. It's beautiful to connect with other people and be a connector of people and facilitate that any way possible. So the fact that Corey and Shelley and I met the way that we did, I think it was just meant to be. Shortly after that conference is when I launched a webinar. I launched a webinar, and Corey was one of my guests. He was the second guest, I believe. And a few of his friends that he has in his circle were also guests on my webinar. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool how that all worked out.
Okay, yeah, what was the webinar? What was the webinar about? We want to know.
The webinar, it was about tapping into your potential. It was about really, really discovering who you are. It was about stepping into the leader that you're meant to be, and that's what Corey had touched on. There were different topics. There were 21 guests. You know what? I'm sorry. It was a summit. It was a 21-day virtual summit. That's what it was. So I spoke with 21 different coaches, teachers, facilitators, and each of them shared a little something different that had to do with business, starting up your business, or about being an influencer, about leadership, all of that good stuff. So that's what Corey's was about, tapping into your potential. And that's what Rebecca Luna Speaks is about. Yes,
there
definitely. Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what Rebecca Luna Speaks about.
It's been more public speaking these days. With my story that I contributed to the Blue Talks Volume 2, it was about knowing that you have something special inside of you and trying to figure out what that is. Yes, there it is. Thank you. Yeah, I have it here too. Ooh, that's what's up.
Next year, I'm going to have mine too.
I just
Right there.
but
See it?
not-
Can you all see it? There it is.
Manifesting, yes.
And not to interject with Rebecca, I want you to continue on with that story, but I have to say, since we both showed the book, that, and Elise, you wouldn't know this either, but that book of the 4 so far, and the 5th one is being worked on right now, that book was voted one of the most popular books of the year by Thinkers 360. So I just want to say that.
It was. I shared that. It was so exciting. Oh my goodness.
I didn't mean to take us off track there, but I just had to add that in.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. And that's part of my story. Where you never know what's going to happen. We just know that we have something inside of us. We have to figure that out, right? It takes us on a journey. With me, there's failures that I speak about. I take you on a journey from my life, from being a little girl, knowing that I was different somehow, but didn't know what it meant, up into my teens and all the opportunities that came and were taken away, up until my 20s, up until now. So I take you through a journey of the decades, and it's a story. It's written. It's a feel-good journey where you laugh, you cry. It pulls out your emotions because you were on that with me. I describe it to where if you were right there experiencing it with me, that's the way that I felt I should write this chapter. And from there, there's so many lessons, you know, from all the failures that lead you up to the place that you're supposed to be, tapping into the potential that you have inside of you, not allowing your circumstances to determine what you're going to become. Like you, I grew up in a barrio, I did, and nothing ever happened with anybody. My family, nobody ever graduated. In my Hispanic family, you know, it was very traditional. You get married, you have kids, you live your life, you work and stuff like that. And I knew that I didn't want that. That's a path that a lot of my family members, that's the path that they chose. And they're doing stuff now to figure it out. But with me, I would not stand for that. I would not settle for that. So knowing that magic that was inside of me, I wanted to tap into it. It would talk to me, but I didn't know what it was. So I tried something and that didn't work out. I tried something else and that didn't work out. Up until the point to what inspired me to really launch Rebecca Luna Speaks is the fact that I always wanted to be. I'm getting all emotional now.
Oh,
See?
just go ahead. Just like a spicy girl. Go ahead. Tap into those emotions.
Oh my gosh. I really thought that I was going to be an entertainment reporter. I got a news working at a local news station, and I figured, you know what? This is my chance. This is what's going to happen. Again, going into listening to that voice, tapping into that potential, like I share in the book. And that didn't work out. It didn't. And that was just so painful because you think you're on the right path. You think this is what you're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden it's taken away. And you're like, what do I do now? That's another failure. That was
I don't know if I believe in the whole failure thing. We'll have to have a chit chat about that afterwards, but whatever.
That's just how it feels. You know, you feel defeated.
I know, but the whole idea of failure is so like crazy because it's really the seeds that are being planted and the roots that are growing for how fabulous we all become. You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah. I respect your failures. Go ahead, keep going.
So I realized, okay, what do I do now? What am I supposed to do? I know I have potential inside of me, but where do I go from here? And I have a son, so of course I had to work. I had 4 part-time jobs at one time trying to make ends meet. My son was in school. We were struggling, you know, but I knew I had to do something. I knew I had to figure out what that potential was, because why would it talk to me since I was a little girl up until now? Why would things start coming together? Why would things fall apart? Everything that happens, it all led up to this point. So finally, I was like, you know what? I'm tired of feeling defeated. I know I'm meant for more. So from that moment on, I started watching self-development videos. I logged myself out of social media, completely detached myself from my friends, from life, from everything. I just went to work. I did what I had to do. And I was determined to figure out what it was that I wanted. So finally, after 8 months of just detaching from the world, I was inspired to really start my own business. I didn't know what that business was. I never thought that I would be a public speaker. I never thought that I would be in the positions I am now, which I'll share later. And that's when I was inspired to start Rebecca Luna Speaks. It was coaching and on motivational speaking. So motivational speaking, like I said, is what I do mostly now. But I just feel I'm on the right path. This is where I was meant to be now. This is who Rebecca is. After everything that happened, it was all leading up to this point. And when we're on the right path, the right people come into our lives, the right opportunities come into our lives. Like I said, there was no coincidence that Shelly, Corey, and I met, and we were all in the same place, and everything just came together. So that's what inspired it all. That's what happened with it all.
And
it's so, it's interesting because for me, Rebecca, when I was reading your story, one of the things that spoke to me is much the same as you. When I was younger, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I looked at those like MTV VJs. Like I used to have MTV when I was a kid, and where I lived in Canada, it wasn't normal to have MTV. You only had it with a satellite, and none of my friends had it. So I'm always watching MTV, and I was into
when there was actual music.
Yeah, but I like really heavy music. So they used to have this show called Monsters Ball, and it was on 4 hours.
I remember it.
Yeah, it was on 4 hours overnight. Host's name was Ricky Rackman, and I always I wanted to be him. Like I wanted to be the rock and roll behind the scenes interviewer. And so same idea. And I went through that whole thing of, all of a sudden questioning, why did I have that? Why did I have that calling if that wasn't my pattern? And, you could make a lot of excuses. Today, it wouldn't be as hard to achieve it for me. Back then, you could make the excuse, well, I live in a town with 3,000 people. I'm like, as far as possibly could possibly be away from the epicenter of any of this stuff, you'd have to literally move at a young age to make it happen. So you could make up all these reasons, but I feel like yourself, Rebecca, it was my opening to something else altogether. But when you're younger and you don't know any better, you're just like, well, how come this one thing I want isn't happening? And I remember reading your story, and you were talking about how you got the dream job. You were at the radio station. And if I remember correctly, and I'm going by memory on this, but you got the dream job, and then they actually even gave you more opportunity, but they put a lot on you. And it was basically almost too much. And then all of a sudden, maybe because of none of your own doing, they're like, well, this isn't maybe the right fit. But you were managing a lot more than you thought you would be in a really short amount of time. So you did get to live a bit of that. And then, so I could see where you could say, well, why is this now pulled away from me? But do you now, looking back, and it sounds like it, but looking back now, do you feel like that was a part of the journey that helped you even start Rebecca Luna Speaks? Like, was that part of it? You actually having to go through experiencing it and getting a bit of it, and then having it go, okay, well, you know what? It's not a right fit right now. Because I know you talked in the story about how hard of a blow that was for them to say that when you finally had started to achieve your dream. So I just love to get your thoughts around, how do you look back at that now, having the time to reflect on it?
I feel that it really wasn't where I was supposed to be. It was great training for other things that I do now, because I still am involved with media and with radio. But if I truly believe that if you're not in the right place, that, God, the universe, whatever higher power you believe in, is going to shake it up, and they're going to remove you to put you on the path that you're supposed to be. So looking back, I'm glad that I'm not with that company anymore. And it was a blessing. It really was a blessing. As hard as a blow as it was, and I couldn't really see that at that time. Like I said, I got skills, and that was great. And now I have media hookups from that station. But I'm glad that I'm not part of it anymore. This is the journey that it led me to. Everything happens for a reason. Everything comes together for a reason. I fully believe that. Yes, definitely.
And all we have to do is remember it the next time the shit hits the fan and be like, okay, now I'm in it, but it's still happening for a reason, right? It's easy in that retro perspective to do that.
Yeah.
But you know what, too? What I found, and you guys might agree, is that 75% of the time, and I'm being generous, the idea of something is way better than the thing itself, right? The idea of the dream job sometimes is way better than actually having to do the dream job. Like you get it and then you're like, this is not what I expected.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like all of this stuff, I thought I would feel a certain way when this showed up, and this is not how I'm feeling right now. And we get caught up in the idea of receiving it, but the feeling that we were really going for in the receiving of it isn't there. And we missed the mark on that.
And that's probably, you know, that I don't know if you guys have heard this, and it's interesting you say this, Elise, because I don't know if it's this book we're going to talk about later that I read this in, or if it's somewhere else, but I just read it in the last couple of days. And it's wherever it's from, I read it before, but I reread it, about the idea that even when we get caught up in the doing of it, like the thinking about it when you were younger, and me when I was younger, about being the VJ or the host or what have you, or the interviewer, you get the dopamine from it just as if you already achieved it.
Right. So like really, there's nothing to do. I'm always like, now what am I going to do with all my time? All I have to do is think of the idea of it. And now, like, what? I'll just go to a brewery and, you know, like hang out on my e-bike. Like, what do you do when you know that really the feeling of it is what we're going for ultimately? And then you get it and you're like, well, the idea of me when I was a kid thinking about it was way more fun.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, it's like, you know, writing, for instance, for me, when I'm writing a book, I actually enjoy it now. When I was a kid, I would like have the idea of the payoff to me was the book in my hand. That was it. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to write the book so I can hold up my hand and say I'm an author. But it's interesting now, to your point, Elise, now I get the dopamine from writing the book. I actually enjoy it. So, you know, I love to say, what if the journey really is the destination? Well, my thinking in that is, what if you can get the dopamine all through the journey? Then you're getting the dopamine all the time. You're on a high all the time because you've enjoyed.
Isn't that why we're all here right now, is to like live a dopamine, be a dopamine addict? I mean, come on.
I think so. You know, like
actually, I'm just going to admit that's why I'm here.
Well, if you enjoy the journey, though, like at least we had. I don't know if Mitzi was on this. I think it was Mitzi was with us, and I don't know if it was or the other show that we do. Mitzi Purdue. I know she was with us once.
Oh no, we had a chat with her. She was like on our first event.
Yeah, but I don't think we had her on recently. And okay, so I had her on recently, and I want to share the story with both of you, and not to take away any time, Rebecca, because we'll dive right back into where we were, but you'll like this. It's related to what we're talking about now, about people that can't enjoy the journey. So she shared this story. Now, just for some context, Rebecca, Mitzi Purdue, her father started the Sheraton hotel chain, and so she worked into it growing up, worked for the company in management and all that, and ultimately inherited. Like not the chain, but inherit money from it. And then she actually ended up marrying Frank Purdue with Purdue Chicken, which is like the largest chicken company, I think, in North America. Anyway, its net worth is like, I think it's like, the net worth of the company is like $8 billion.
I pass the Purdue plant every time I travel from Florida to New York.
Yeah, so
I haven't heard of that one.
Town.
It's a pretty big deal, and so her comment was, she didn't say anything about, you know, financially how much, but she said, so you do know that, you know, I could live any lifestyle I wanted now, like, because she had inheritance or received a will from both, and so she was sharing that what she chooses to do, which I think is awesome, is live in a 1-bedroom apartment. And she said, like, when she was with her husband when he's still alive, they lived in the estate in the mansion, and she said, but I realized, that would be boring now, being single. I'd rather, she said, one of my neighbors is a librarian, the other one's a police chief. So that's more exciting to me. Secondly, she said, why do I want to have to deal with a whole estate right now? Like, why would I want to deal with that?
Work.
It is. But here's the thing she said, which I thought was so profound. She said there was a friend of theirs that sold his company. And as soon as he sold the company, he bought a $160 million yacht. And so she said, me and Frank went out to the yacht to visit him. And we asked one of the workers where he was, and they said, oh, he's sitting on the back or whatever, in the front or whatever. I don't know what it is. Like, what's the names? The bow? I don't know. The front part of it. Anyway, they went out there and out to him, and there he was leafing through a magazine with yachts in it. And one of them said to him, oh, what are you doing here? Is your yacht in the magazine? And he goes, no, I'm just questioning if I bought a big enough one or not yet.
And he was on the bow looking at a magazine, as opposed to being in it. Like, it's about being in it.
A $160 million yacht, though, and you're going, I still didn't get the feeling. I didn't get the feeling yet. Maybe I need to get a bigger one. Maybe I need a $180 million yacht. But it goes back to this whole point of, what if you just enjoyed the journey? What if you enjoy being on the yacht, whether it's a smaller or a bigger yacht, but you enjoy being on the water? If $160 million does it for you, awesome. But enjoy it, at least.
I love my 150 kayak.
Yeah.
I'm good with my little kayak.
That's the point, though, right? Who's richer? I'm just gonna put this out there, and then Rebecca, I want to circle back to some questions here. But who's richer, Elise? You that loves the $160 kayak, or the person that bought the $160 million boat that is already questioning a day in whether or not it's the right boat to be?
You know who it is? Whoever feels like they are. That's my answer. Whoever feels richer in their own life. Doesn't even matter. That's like, it blows my mind. And I know this is really deep and really big at the same time, but all of this is for a feeling that we can evoke in a second.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That's very interesting.
And then what? And that creates so much space for expansion. But then what do you fill the space with? Because you already got what you wanted, the feeling that we're going for.
So let's circle back then, Rebecca.
On that note, you go, girl.
Well, I would ask you then. So how does that serve you now? We've talked about what it looked like a little bit earlier, and feel free, we can go back there if you want to. But we talked about what your life was like earlier. We talked about what you realized maybe it was meant to be, like meaning what you're living today. But what about this idea we're talking about here? Like, do you find that now, all those years in reverse, in the mirror, do you now enjoy the journey more? Like, do you now enjoy the little moments more, or is there no change there at all? Like, I'm just curious, has this changed that now that you can actually go, you know what, maybe this happened for a reason versus when you were younger, you may not have saw that. Do you now enjoy the little moments more, or have you always enjoyed the little moments?
I've always enjoyed the little moments. I really have, because I'm very simple. I'm very humble with wherever it is that I'm at, because the fact that I was able to get that dream job before, that was good for me. And now that I'm able to start, now that I'm doing coaching and speaking that I never thought I was doing, I'm enjoying the journey, the process, the ups and downs and the waiting and everything you go through. I feel it's beautiful. It really is. And those opportunities, you never know what they're going to lead to, because I'm doing more stuff that I never thought that I would ever be. For instance, I'm running a Hispanic Chamber of Commerce now. I never knew that. I didn't know what a Chamber of Commerce was. And now here I am in this. With the radio part, with the media parts, the connection is a radio show called the Art LeBeau Connection, where I'm his co-host. And this man has been around. He's 96 years old. He's still on the radio. He still does his requests and dedications. I never thought that I would even be on that show, because I always thought, again, I would be an entertainment reporter. I would be doing this and that. But if you think about it, the entertainment is in the radio show that I'm doing now. The speaking is part of the Chamber of Commerce that I'm doing now. Being in front of people is the Chamber of Commerce. Everything ties up together. But like I said, I'm just very humble with everything. I always enjoy the moment. So to me, I mean, at least you had a very good point about who feels richer. Yeah, I mean, I think we all are rich in little aspects of what we do. And that's what really counts to me. That's how I see it.
Well, I agree with you. I want to know. I want to hear this 96-year-old stories. One of my besties is 89.
Wow. Everybody's trying to interview this man. Yeah. There needs to be an autobiography on this man. That's not done yet. They're like, we need to do it now. But just look up the Art LeBeau Connection and you'll learn all about him. He's been on the radio.
How do you spell the last name?
LABOE.
Art LeBeau.
LABOE.
I'm looking them up right now. The Art LeBeau Show.
Yeah.
So, I'll put this out there as well, and not to bring us in a different direction, but I really feel this could help people today. And you kind of triggered this idea as well, Rebecca, when you talk about why do things happen, and also us being able to kind of, I call it reframing, but us be able to have a different perspective on something. So a great example is Shelly just shared this post. I'd love to get your take on this. We won't spend a lot of time on it because, as Elise knows, we don't try to get too political on the show or too don't go in the.
Are we going there right now, Corey?
Not really. Not really, but just I just looked at
getting nervous.
Shelly and I never even talked about this post that she shared, but she shared this post the other day, and it really got me thinking, because it's something. So I love this quote. I've said it on the show before, but the quote is, and I think it's really important for us to consider this, especially with what's going on, is in times like these, it's always important to remember there have always been times like these. And so what I'm getting at is I think sometimes when we focus on how dare this be happening to us, is it's not the first time. So what happened was Shelley shared this post of a guy, and he showed that if you were born in 1920, which my grandfather was born in 38, 32. So he would have went through all this, but this guy showed a list of all the things you would have went through, like the Spanish flu, wearing a mask, 50 million people dying, World War I, and it's like every 4 or 5 years, the Great Depression. They went through all this stuff, and it's like listing, and the picture he has is of like 10 people wearing a mask in like 1935. And what the idea was that we think it's the first time we've ever gone through something like this as a society.
Because it's all about us.
But look what they survived. I mean, they went through this stuff every few years for it basically said by the time you got to 75, if you had survived, and it listed all the stuff you had survived. And what they pointed out at the end was, and meanwhile, it sucks that we're, we'd be stuck at home in a lockdown, but we got warm food, we got hot water, we got phones, we can actually be online with people, et cetera, et cetera. They had none of that.
We started the bLU Talks Flip Your Script stage in the middle of the pandemic.
Kudos.
That's what inspired this stage. I was at an event and I was inspired to get inspired. I reached out to Corey. I'm already doing the Flip Your Script coaching, helping people flip their script no matter what the global climate is, right? And we started the stage and we had our first live virtual event, which helped bLU Talks go virtual, like on a larger scale, I believe. It was
awesome.
The impetus for that change. And here we are still like a year and a half later, right? And all of you amazing game changers and thought leaders have this incredible platform and are sharing your story and your voice with the world. And whoever shows up, this information's available. Whoever chooses that it's time for them will find the information when their time is ready. It is not our business to point our finger and say they're not doing it yet. That's where I think a lot of us game changers, motivational speakers, coaches, authors, writers make a mistake for ourselves, is that we think now we're responsible for somebody else's path and journey. That's very judgmental. And how dare us think that we know what's best for somebody else just because we don't like how we feel when we look at them. Tough. Find out how you want to feel and then look at the world. I hear it a lot in these interviews. Well, they need to, or we need to do this for them. No, none of our business. We need to be the best version of us, speak our truth, share our message, and just know whoever's showing up is ready. And we are there for whoever is ready.
Exactly. Because those people are in the ripple effect that we are leaving, just sharing our story, throwing our corn into the water, so to speak, putting ourselves out there, like you said. And yeah, one ripple leads to another, and that group leads to another, and it all comes together. Who you are supposed to attract, the people who are for you, will come if you keep putting it out there. Like you said, who cares about the other people? I mean, you know what? That's their deal. That's their journey.
That's one way of putting it directly. But
no, it's a very good point. You have a lot of good, valid points right there, and I like how you put that.
Well, thank you. And there's one more little piece of it that I think is the most important piece that we tend to also not get because it feels too fun and easy. When we're excited about what we do, every single individual, I talk about we as a collective, one person at a time. When I'm excited and I'm inspired and I'm passionate and I'm happy about what I'm doing, that's where the change happens. That's where the change happens. So it doesn't matter if anyone shows up. If I'm riding my bike and I'm listening to music and I'm in a great space, I'm changing the world. So it's about changing the world from a vibrational standpoint, not a do it standpoint or an action oriented standpoint. So if you're happy, girl, being as sassy and as awesome and as gorgeous as you're changing the world. Corey, when you're excited about writing your book, it's not even the book that you're writing. It's that you're excited about writing it. And that's the energy and frequency you're contributing to the global change. And we forget that because it feels too fun. It feels too like I'm not really doing anything. Well, that's the whole point. We're here to play in this playground of life.
Are you guys familiar with Joe Vitale?
Yes,
sounds familiar.
I did his Ho'oponopono certification. So if y'all need some, healing, I'll Ho'oponopono for all y'all.
Yeah. If Rebecca, did you see The Secret, the documentary?
Yes.
He was one of the guys in The Secret.
I think that was pre-Ho'oponopono though for him. That was like a pre-journey.
Yeah, and he has a book called The Attractor Factor, and he was like kind of the law of attraction. He talked about this in the interview. He was already dying down on the law of attraction and almost tired of teaching it when The Secret started. So he was way ahead of the game, meaning like he said, Rhonda Byrne approached him and said, we're going to do this big project. And he said in the interview, like, I get approached by how many people every week? I'm like, yeah, whatever. Once you have the funding, come back to me. Like, he thought it was not going to go anywhere. And he said, and even the idea of teaching the law of attraction, we joked around it, but it was almost like he was in grade 8 and law of attraction was grade 2. So he had to go back and teach it. And so he didn't know it was going to become as big as it did. It blew up, of course, massively. But one of the things he said, which I thought was so profound, is one of our guests on the Influencer Vault said, so Joe, can you teach us how to sell without being sleazy or without salesy or whatever? And what I loved is he said, well, the first thing I recommend is you change the word from sales to share, like selling to sharing. Mm-hmm. And he said, what he gave the example of is he said, whenever you see a movie that you absolutely love and you sell all your friends are going to see the movie and you don't get paid a penny of commission, are you not still selling? But you're selling in a way that you're so passionate about sharing that make sure they see the movie that you've sold them on it without even realizing you're selling. Versus when we try to use sales tactics and we're not really sold on it, everybody feels icky. And I love that. So I'm coming from what you just said, Elise, that if you're passionate and putting that energy out. So what he's saying is when you're sharing something that you love, like Zig Ziglar said, I have a moral obligation to share this with you. Because if not, I'm doing a disservice to you. So if you truly believe what you do and what you teach and what have you, share it versus sell it. But people will feed off your passion and you're putting a good energy out into the world and everybody's winning. And so at least you reminded me of that I just think it's a great perspective. Instead of always thinking about how do I sell and what's the new strategy, why don't you just share instead?
Or just be excited about it. But I have a question for you.
Yes.
So when you're on stage and you're sharing, what groups do you usually share to? Like, so where do you usually find yourself being invited to come and speak and share and motivate?
It's groups of women between the ages of 30 and 45. Because at that point they've had their kids already and their kids are empty nesters and they don't know what to do. I'm one of those myself. So my story and sharing it, that's what they connect with. A lot of Latinas too, being the fact that I grew up the way that I did in the hood and stuff like that, and I didn't allow myself to become what it is. So there's different little niches or different groups of women that I noticed. And now lately with the Chamber of Commerce, they're inviting me to go and talk about business and what we're doing here in the Coachella Valley. I live in the Palm Springs area. So it's really exciting. And so my audience is becoming diverse with all of these opportunities that are opening. And also with the Latinas, with the ones that with the barrio, with the Art Lebeau connection, that's also a connection right there because that's predominantly the audience. It is predominantly Hispanic and it is in neighborhoods and it is a lot of families who have incarcerated loved ones and whatnot. So all of these audiences tie in together. They really do. They're different, but they're the same at the same time. And that's what I've been sharing. Yeah, I never knew. Amazing. I would always ask myself, what does it mean? Like, why am I speaking with these group of women? And now what does that have to do with this group? How do I tie in A, B, and C? I just kept doing what I was doing. I kept sharing my story. I kept just being me, and people were gravitating to that. Like you said, your vibration that you put out in the world. Mm-hmm. And so now it's all coming together. And I'm talking to these people who you wouldn't think would realize this or think that they have something in common with this person or that person. But then when you share something or you say something, that person's like, oh, yeah, I know Art Lebeau. Oh, I grew up that way too. And people just kind of come together that way. So it's an interesting and it's a beautiful connection. It really is. And to be in the middle of all of that, they do get really excited. And I get excited of the fact that everybody's just on there. We're all on the same page somehow. We're all sharing. We're all touching. It's beautiful. It's magic. It really is. And now they have that takeaway that they can share as well.
And I want to ask you about the chamber. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. I was just wondering if you're still doing virtual events like summits and stuff like that now that you've expanded your reach.
It's more in person. Now that we're in person, I've been doing some local stuff out here, so it's really cool. And with the Chamber of Commerce, we're connected. My chamber is the Greater Coachella Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we are connected to the California Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, which serves as an umbrella, as a conduit of all types of other chambers of commerces. So I'm talking with them, with their groups, going out there. It's really neat. It really is.
I was going to ask you about that too.
Growing.
The Palm Springs area, is that where the Coachella concert happens as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
The Coachella Fest. Yeah, that's in Indio. That's about 20 minutes from Palm Springs, but it's in the Coachella Valley. Yeah, as soon as you see those mountains and you see the windmills and you're like, oh, here I am. Coachella Fest, here I come.
What is it? I don't even know what that is.
It's a pretty big deal, at least.
Like about what? I'm gonna have to Google it. But tell me like a little bit in a nutshell. What's this festival?
It's a music festival. It's like the iHeartRadio festival where the biggest names in pop music and hip hop, now they're incorporating more Latino stuff, EDM, all of these different genres. They all come together on different stages and they bring people from all over the world. There's big, beautiful art displays that are scattered throughout the property. You just listen to music and you just unite and make friends with people from all over.
What time of year do they usually have it?
Usually in April. It's 2 weekends, but with COVID and everything, it's coming back next year.
Okay, yeah, well, so good. I'll make it out there.
April 15th, April 24th, and I think Shelly and I will try to make it out there too. So maybe we can catch up.
Yeah,
I'll come.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, do it, and it could be your first Coachella. Yeah,
definitely. And I'll bring Maggie, our RV.
Oh my God,
travels.
At least take a guess. Because I was just looking on it right now. I remember the numbers were roughly this, but take a guess how many people attend.
20,000.
Times that by 10.
No way.
200. It says 250,000 will be there next year.
Wow. I'm glad I'm bringing Maggie, so I have my own little house.
They expanded it. They expanded the grounds.
That's what it says here anyway in Wikipedia. It says attendance will be 250,000 over a 2-day weekend total.
Where does everybody stay? That's like a lot of people.
Campgrounds. There's campgrounds. You can car camp or you can tent camp. There's a lot of Airbnbs, hotels. You have to book months in advance because
I'll start booking.
Yeah. Look into it, girlfriend.
Or do you have a driveway? I have a 24-foot motorhome. I love driveway surfing.
Well, I would think though as well, if they skipped a year at least, you and I both, we'd probably want to get on it soon because it'll be busier because people missed the year.
Well, so everybody I'll just have to find a driveway, All
right.
Driveway surf. But anyway, that sounds exciting.
So I want to ask you about the chamber.
Next for you, Luna? Like, is that what you were going to ask, Corey?
Well, I was going to ask her about the chamber. I just wanted to so maybe we'll ask you about the chamber and what's coming up. That'll be the last two questions. So the chamber, I know you mentioned it a little bit. You mentioned about it being, a merger of two chambers, or not a merger, but working together of two chambers. And I'm just curious, how did you get involved in the chamber? Like, did you, and I didn't know this, I saw you post that you were now going to be, I forget the title, but president, CEO, something. And did you start that chamber, or were you hired by the chamber? How did that all work? I'm just curious how it came together. Really.
A couple years ago, a friend of mine, she wanted to start one out here, and she has some colleagues that have experience in chambers of commerce from different cities that are in the Inland Empire, which is the Southern California region. So she asked me to be a part of it by asking her, she wanted me to be her vice chair. And I was like, I don't have experience. I don't know what that is. So time went by, and through COVID, everything got situated and whatnot. And so her colleagues that she started this with, they ended up being the founders of it, and she's doing other things now. So they're like, hey, do you still want to be part of the Chamber of Commerce? I said, sure. Okay, I have Rebecca Luna Speaks. I have a business. I can grow my network, and I can get some clients at the same time. This was in June of last year that I joined. This year, our elections for our officers are in March. and I was elected to be the chair in March. So now I'm running this Chamber of Commerce.
That's amazing.
My colleagues have experience. They really do. And they're really helping the whole thing grow. They're helping the newcomers like me and some people on my board. We're really learning a lot, and we're making connections, being connected to the state chamber, who provides a lot of resources to the partner chambers throughout California. A lot of funding during COVID was created by California with the SBDC and this chamber and other resources that they really helped a lot of small businesses survive through the pandemic. So that's how that came about. It's one chamber, it's one unit, the Coachella Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and we're doing it. We're going on 2 years now. And we're creating some buzz. Good things are coming. We have a big vision ahead of us, and anybody can join. Just because it's a Hispanic chamber doesn't mean that somebody's excluded. It's just because here where I live in the Coachella Valley, it's a huge Hispanic community, and it needs to be tapped into. And that's where tapping into that, allowing you to come in and just get resources, and everybody wins. And the businesses, of course, supporting small businesses, making sure they have resources, making sure they bounce back from COVID or redo their marketing plan, whatever it is, educational. We're really about education is one aspect that we're really pushing.
Love it.
It's an interesting ride. It is. But I'm the chairwoman. We have a vice chair, we have a parliamentarian, we have a secretary, we have a treasurer, we have all that stuff set up, and we have our board members.
I love
Amazing.
it.
Yeah.
So I'll let you now. At least you had the question of what does Rebecca have planned? What's coming up in the future? So maybe we'll let you tackle that one.
Oh, okay, me or okay?
Yeah. What do you have? We want to know what's coming. What's in the pipeline? Like what's coming up? Like what do you have going on that we could look forward to, or tap into, or join, or be a part of, even if we're not in your neck of the woods?
Oh, that's okay. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be in our neck of the woods or anything. But I have some speaking gigs coming up with different chambers. So once all that solidifies, I'll be putting it up on my social media. I do work a lot with social media on Facebook and Instagram. Also with the Chamber of Commerce, we have some stuff coming up as well that people can join. So I'll be giving the links on that as well. And Art LeBeau, he has this big annual concert coming up on October 2nd out here in Southern California. And there's thousands of people that come to this, and everybody's just excited to be back. This man sells out shows, and he's 96. He has 8 shows a year, but we're only having 1 so far. So that's what's coming down the pipeline. All of this stuff will be on social media. All this stuff has links. And so if you want to be a part of it or more information, I can put that in the chat, and that anybody can be a part of it, really.
How do you spell Coachella?
COACL.
Wait, COA. Go ahead.
COACHELLA.
Because I want to join the Coachella chamber right now.
Coachella.
Do you have a Facebook page presence?
Yeah,
okay.
We do. Yes, we do. It's the Greater Coachella Valley Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Or you know what? Go to GCV8. Okay, G as in Greater, C as in Coachella, V as in Valley, H as in Hispanic, C as in Chamber, C as in Commerce.org.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll post that in the comments as well.
Yeah, definitely do.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. See, that's what Rebecca Luna Speaks is. It's all of these components. It's all speaking. It's all sharing. That's what it's become. It's moved on from coaching to all of this, all of these resources and all of this information that I'm just love to share with you, that I'm excited about.
Amazing.
I'm excited too. I'm excited to have met you.
So Rebecca, my last official question, or unofficial, whichever way you want to call it, is just how that you mentioned the website for the chamber. Is there any other ways that you would want people to connect with you? Like, in other words, is there any other hub or any other place you want to send people? Just so we know before we let you run, is there any other place you would say, here's where you can connect with me, or even just on Facebook, or where would you send people? Yeah,
of course. I'm on Facebook and on Instagram. It's Rebecca Luna Speaks. Those are the pages. They're connected together, so you can do that, or you can send me an email. It's Rebecca at RebeccaLunaSpeaks.com.
So I like the synergy in your brand. It's all the way through. I mean, somebody wants to find you, Rebecca Luna Speaks is how they find you.
Yeah. Rebecca Luna's going to be speaking on something, so get ready.
I love it.
Love it as well. So, Rebecca, this has been an absolute pleasure. I thank you so much. I appreciate you. I salute you. It's a to be continued from my perspective. We'll make this happen again in the future. Elise, did you have anything else you want to add? Rebecca, anything else you want to add just before we let you run, Rebecca, and Elise and I close off for the day?
I friended you and liked you and all that good stuff. So let's stay connected. I will reach out to you when I'm in the area. And if you're ever in Weeki Wachee and you're looking for a place to retreat from your everyday, come hang out with us at Manatee Landing Retreat.
Where is that at?
It's in Weeki Wachee, Florida.
Oh, in Florida.
Yes.
Okay. Is that by Miami?
Well, not exactly, but like it's only like a few hours away. It's closer than where you are. It's on the Gulf. But we've created an Airbnb, but the truth of the matter is that anybody who shows up there really has an opportunity to live a new perspective, like really learn how to flip their script and start having experiences that inspire them to go into the world and really grow a life that they love and love themselves in. So it's not officially announced right now as to why we started the retreat that way, but that's the seed of intention that was planted when we signed the papers to grow this space. So you're always welcome to come and
Thank
stay.
you. Hey,
Yes.
my birthday's in November, so I just might have to make a trip. Hey now.
And I'll be back. Yes, and I'll be back. And between November and May is where the manatees come to the end of our canal. We have a place called Hospital Hole, and it's where they come and mend between November and May. So it's the perfect time of year to come.
Oh my goodness. Can I touch a manatee?
Well, you're not supposed to officially touch them.
Oh, okay.
Elliot will give you the tour, and Elliot's part of the tour is, I'm going to say there's no cursing, but basically it's like going to a strip club. They can touch you, but you can't touch them.
So if
that's
I
like the rule of the manatees.
Okay. But if I put my hand out, can they come and?
Absolutely.
Okay. They could give me a high five. That's fine. I'll say they touched me.
They come into the canal, like the kids will play and they'll come and float up to like the water toys and stuff. So yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Give me a call. We'll hook you up.
And what you said your birthday was in November?
Yes.
What
November 5th. The 5th.
Oh, it's coming up.
Shelley's is November 1st. Maybe we should try to coordinate some sort of manatee event.
Oh, yes. Let's do it.
I would love to. We have 5 suites and we sleep up to 23. Come and bring your people and I'll be back. I would love it. We would love it. Okay. Ellie and I would love to hang out with you guys and take you on night tours and kayak the springs. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So
well,
if it's not this year, next year, or any time in between, you're always welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Definitely. And I'll see you when you come out for Coachella.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
For sure. In April. Corey, you're always invited to come.
I appreciate it.
We tried the whole villages thing. That didn't work. So now we're moving to Weeki Wachee, Manatee Landing. You got it. At one point you will show up with family.
We will. 100%. Shelley wants to too. She just mentioned it the other day. So absolutely. We're all in. We just don't know when, but we'll make it happen.
We'll be there.
Awesome. Well, Rebecca, like I said, absolute pleasure. I appreciate you. I salute you. I thank you. We'll let you run and call it a to be continued. It won't be the last.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Hugs.
Thank you.
3-second hug.
3-second hug to both of you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Rebecca.
Bye.